Hey, what's up guys? My name is Cameron Gallagher, and today we're going to be talking about the GH5 LUT. This is from Emotive Color. Now, if you're someone like me and you own the GH5 or the GH5s, one of the things that we really struggle with, or at least I feel like I tend to struggle with, is kind of getting that real true film look. Now, I don't mean film emulation like, we're putting a Super 8 or Super 16 type of grain on top and it looks really, over the top, or like this vintage film thing. I'm talking about really making your GH5 look like in Arri Alexa. I mean, let's be honest. Film obviously is yes, you can use things like film grain, but the gold standard when it comes to colors and things like that is the Alexa. Now, whether it's the Alexa Mini or the Alexa XT or whatever, the Alexa is honestly the best color out there. I mean, I don't think really anyone can argue that. Canon has amazing colors, and Red does, and Panasonic is doing very well. But again, I think nothing comes close to the Alexa. So I happened to come across Emotive Color and this GHAlex LUT. And obviously it's kind of like, playing on the Alexa. And what this is a LUT that will make your GH5 or GH5s match the color science of the Alexa. Now you can see it says GH footage, transform, precisely match color science of the Alexa, rich color grading, highlights, blah, 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 just like film. And this is the thing that really got me right here. The highlights just like film. Now, we were working on a project where we kind of needed this like Blackmagic Pro Mist filter, like highlight sort of roll off. And that's one of the biggest things that I hate about the GH5, and really the only complaint, even though it's not that much of a complaint, is the highlight roll off is kind of harsh. And it sort of has this like, clipping. So when I saw this LUT, I thought, you know what, let me give it a try. So I will say, I have nothing to do with Emotive Color at all. I bought this LUT completely by myself, which brings me to the first thing about this LUT. This LUT, it comes in two. It's a tungsten and a daylight, as you can see here, and it is $65 for both. So I wanted to see, is that $65 price tag actually worth it? Now, one thing that already kind of got me excited was the fact that you have a lot of different options. So you get the actual LUT for HLG, Cine D, and of course Vlog, which is like the main LUT. You get monitoring for the LUTs, and you get some sample images, stuff like that. So I was really excited, and I really enjoyed this. So what I want to do now is we're going to hop into Davinci Resolve 15, and I'm going to kind of show you some clips that I have and sort of what I've been seeing and what I think of it. All right, so to think about spending $65 on a LUT is a little bit scary, and I'm not going to show you how to import LUTs right now because obviously that's just a little bit ridiculous. You can go look for a tutorial on that right now. But I want to show you what it does and kind of how you at least get there. So once you have your LUT installed, you either have the daylight or the tungsten, and these you can of course go into the Vlog if you wanted to do it in ProRes, anything different. But these are the LUTs right here. They're right on the top. They're right there, daylight and tungsten. So let's kind of see what these do. So I want to show you first this typical Rec 709 standard conversion LUT on the GH5. Now this is the GH5, and I shot this in Vlog, and I shot this outside, of course, so it's daylight. And this is just the LUTify Rec 709 conversion, just straight on the camera. And you can see it looks really nice. When you look at that, it looks nice. The sky looks good. It's, some good dynamic range. It's an impressive shot. I would be totally happy with that. But then I put on the GHAlex LUT, and I'm just calling it the GHA LUT right now. And what a massive difference. Now, the first thing right off the bat is that there is a little bit less contrast, but you notice how the highlights are much smoother. They're not so harsh and crispy. So obviously that means a little less contrast, but they look so much smoother. And look at the dynamic range difference between the two clips. Now, obviously this is, not real dynamic. I mean, I guess it is real dynamic range because it's the fact that the LUT is kind of opening up the dynamic range of Vlog, because obviously Vlog has incredible dynamic range, but also look at the colors. They're vibrant, they feel lively, but not to a fault. And I think one of the things that I initially, when I threw this on, I was like, oh, maybe that's too much. Like maybe that's too much color and this and that. But I don't think so, because then of course, this is basically a Rec 709 in theory kind of grade, or excuse me, correction. So then what you would do after this is you could always come up here. You could always add another LUT on top of this. That would then be maybe your actual grade. So like, let's say we just go to the standard Rec 709 P3 LUTs. Let's just say we want to do like a teal and orange, and then we could add this Minkar. Now let's do that to the Rec 709. So you can see like this is really nice. The colors, again, very vibrant. The highlights look very natural. Now let's do that same thing here. So if we go in, we're going to add a new node. We're going to do the main car. Boom, we add it. Now look at the difference between these two. It's the same idea. So much more dynamic range, and those highlights just look so much smoother and less harsh. So for me, that was the first clip I actually tested this guy right here, and I was already like, okay, I really, really like what this is doing. So this is from a wedding that I shot, and you can see that this has a grade on top. So there's just the standard correction in the original LUT, or excuse me, in the original node. The second node in this one is the LUTify 709 to conversion LUT. And then there's a grade at the end, just a LUT that just adds kind of a style onto it. So looking at this, I'd look at this and say, oh, it looks really good. You know, I really like the shot. And then I went over and saw the GHA or the GHAlex LUT. And you can, again, this is where you can really start to see that highlight roll off. And this, to me, screams what true film looks like. Now, what I will say is that the rest of these wedding clips, I did grade each clip to the way I would want them to look. So these are not just slapping on the LUT. These are actually graded and corrected to what I think looks best for each. So again, you can see this clip actually has more contrast after I graded it, but you're also getting a nicer look in their skin, her dress. It almost like feels blown out at first when you first look at it, but then you realize it's so smooth, it's almost like blooming. Where you can see on the Rec 709 one, it's kind of like it is almost clipping and feels a little bit more like crushed, especially right here in like the neckline, and same with his suit. But again, big, big difference. Feels very much like film. So I'm going to show you another one. This is, again, the Rec 709. Looks really good. I mean, I'd be totally happy with that. And then you look at the LUT and the GH GHAlex LUT, and again, same thing. Just the colors and the skin tone. What I really love what it's doing is what it's doing to the highlights, and it makes them feel bright. Like, I don't know, you can see the issue right here is these highlights feel kind of dark, and this should be brighter. But when you start to brighten this, and I'll actually, you know what I'll do? I'll get rid of this initial. Now, Vlog is supposed to be underexposed. Let's say you expose it like this. I'm not crazy about the way that looks, because again, it looks bright, but this all just looks like crushed digitally. Where this looks bright, and I could even brighten it more if I wanted to, and it just blooms. It just feels much more natural in its kind of just entirety. Again, much like an Alexa or film would kind of feel and look like. And then this last shot, same thing. Here's the 709, and again, this looks really nice. Like, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And this was actually part of the teaser that we gave them because we didn't have this LUT yet. And then again, you just look at that GH GHAlex LUT. And of course, mind you, there is a color shift. You know, the 709 definitely has a lot more pink and reds and blues. And you can see that this has more like yellows, greens. But again, I love, love, love the look of this. And one of the things that kind of got me at first is when I was putting these head to head, I thought, oh, well, this looks like really, really different. And like this, you know, this maybe looks more to what I remember it looking like, and this looks kind of different. And then what I did was I actually rendered the whole project out, a couple of them that I was working on in, you know, with this GH GHAlex LUT. And what a huge difference. You don't notice it. You know, looking at these head to head, you might be like, oh man, this is a really big difference. And, you know, you might say like, oh, I don't know, maybe I don't like the yellow or green tones or whatever. Because originally I liked this kind of like blue-red look. But then after kind of finishing this off, it just, I don't know, it takes on something else. And I think it really does make the sensor actually look better. You're getting what I would say is, you know, probably the most out of the sensor, especially when it comes to dynamic range. Now, that being said, because I'm kind of gushing over this LUT, this isn't for everything. I definitely think, like, maybe in this situation right here, maybe I mean, I don't know if I would personally use this, but it's just the idea that there are times where you are going to want to use just your standard Rec 709 conversion, especially because of the way the highlights do bloom. If you're doing something maybe where you don't want the highlights to bloom at all, you want it to be a little more like crisp and maybe a little more contrasty, then I definitely would just use the regular Rec 709 conversion LUT. But again, I think if you're really looking for that Alexa look on the camera and you really want that kind of filmic, you know, nice dynamic range and, you know, the same colors as the Alexa and sort of the smoothness of that highlight roll off, then I definitely think this LUT is worth it. And I'm honestly very impressed. Again, just, you know, kind of going through everything, I was really skeptical at first. But I think that I'm very impressed. Now, obviously, you could probably go in and do all these things inside Davinci Resolve, but the reality is I don't know how to do that. A lot of people don't know how to do that. So, for the price, it is totally worth it. And again, if it's something that you think is valuable to you, if you look at these clips and you don't like those clips and you don't like the way they look, then all right, maybe it's not the best for you. But I would definitely recommend, taking a look at it, doing some research into it, because I think if it's, if you're wanting to get the most out of your GH5 or GH5s and you're noticing sort of that digital harshness that I was starting to notice, then I think this is the perfect LUT to kind of take that edge off. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys later.